Jambo. Jambo. That's Swahili for hello. Jambo. Okay, we're going to start with just a few images from Kenya.
This was a good shot for you.
Yeah, you're right. You got another one. Oh my God.
It's the last ones who want to kill themselves.
So this is definitely the last one.
Yeah, I think so.
So we have Edna Kiplagat,
Yes. And the other girl is Paris champion too.
the Paris champion.
Paris.
Edna's in dark top.
Right. If you talk to her,
That's a long stretch of work. It is like beads, that is. Jambo, good morning. Because of Baylor's generous Barks-Gary Faculty Global Study Grant Program and equally generous Glen Ireland Distinguished Teaching Award, I traveled to Kenya in July. As you just saw, I flew 8 hours from Atlanta to Amsterdam, then 8 more hours down into the continent of Africa. There, I spent 2.5 weeks in a beautiful, beautiful country, and since then, I've spent many hours pondering what I wanted to say to you all today. Before I left for Kenya, folks asked, "Why are you going?" And while I was there, folks asked, "Why are you here?" And since I returned, folks have asked, "Why did you go?" And I gotta be honest, it was kind of hard to answer those questions succinctly. So I settled on a seemingly simple answer to that admittedly fair question. I'm going to soak it all up. I'm here to soak it all up. I went to soak it all up. And what I want to try to share with you all here today is some of that. Some of what I, with as big a sponge as I could find, soaked up. First, a few specifics about this part of the world. Kenya, an East African nation, received its independence like the United States from the British. Their independence came, however, nearly 200 years after ours did. Kenya is a desperately and painfully poor country, but it's nevertheless rich in natural and cultural beauty of the sort that you might expect from a land that sits right on the equator. And indeed, many people head to Kenya for safari, to see lions, and rhino, and elephants, giraffes, to see these animals as close as I am right now to Mr. Wilson. I went on safari, and you saw some of my photos in that film clip, and doing so was really neat. I'll treasure seeing those beautiful wild creatures. But I went to Africa as a teacher and as a runner, so my primary focus was not so much safari. I was most interested in running. I wanted to hang out with runners. I wanted to learn about runners, watch runners, and to run myself. And then I wanted to write about it. So that's what I did. Watching the Kenyan people move, walk, run, dance, mesmerized me. I witnessed such grace of movement, beautiful grace and symmetry and elegance. So I watched and I watched. More than once I scribbled in my journal, how do I describe these soft footsteps, those soft, elegant, fluid movements? In Kenya, in the city and in the country, people walking and running and moving fill the roads and the sidewalks. Not for a moment, however, did I tire of watching the motion, not for all the 17 days I spent there. I'm not the only person deeply interested in how the Kenyans move. Many athletes, their coaches, sociologists from all over the world marvel at how incredibly successful Kenyan men and women are as distance runners on the world stage. Simply put, they are the very, very best in the world. From the 800 meters on up through the marathon, Kenyan runners dominate the sport. My own trip took me into Nairobi and then on to Eldoret, which is the 5th largest city in Kenya, then finally to the village of Iten in the Great Rift Valley. Iten was the heart and soul of my trip. First seeing that welcome to Iten sign on July the 18th filled me with real emotion. I was finally in the place that had first stirred my desire to undertake this journey. The village itself is a runner's mecca. It has a population of about 3,500 people, and at any given time, about 20% of those people are runners. So in other words, a high percentage of people who want to be really, really good at running congregate in this small corner of Kenya, out in what would look to us like the middle of nowhere. This brings me to one of my main thoughts: collective effort. It's interesting to ponder what a group of people can accomplish when they work together. That, for example, is why we study here at Baylor and not at home. In that village, throngs of men and women run on the red dirt roads that surround E10. The whole village seems to train together. On Tuesdays, people gather at the Cameron dirt track for speed workouts. I saw 100 people, maybe closer to 200 people on the day that I visited. And on Thursdays, a huge group gathers for a very specific collective workout. Earlier, some of the film clips showed that training, hundreds of runners. They run miles and miles of speed play on the outskirts of town. There's not one explanation, nor is there one reason, as to why so many Kenyan men and women are the very best runners in the world. Let's look for just a moment at some of the theories, though. 1, Kenya has about 40 tribes, and the Kalenjin tribe comprises 10% of the total population. The Kalenjin people, however, make up 70% of the Kenyan track and field teams. So there are those who would like to believe that Kenyans are great runners because they possess genetic advantages. Their bodies are put together in ways that favor distance runners: thin legs, narrow hips, strong ankles. Well, sure, that's part of it. The genetic gifts of the Kalenjin tribe contribute something to their success. 2, others believe that where they live is the magic ingredient, that living at altitude so helps their training that we can explain their success in that way. E10 is at an altitude of 8,000 feet above sea level, which means it's perfect for altitude training, high enough to boost oxygen carrying capacity, but not too high. The weather is also ideal for running. It's rarely any colder than 50 degrees or hotter than 80 degrees. And of particular interest to us here in southeastern Tennessee, it's never humid. There are 12 hours of daylight all year long. So sure, that's a part of it. Living way above sea level contributes something to their success. Others point to their diet as a major factor. A typical Kenyan eats very, very simply: grains, vegetables, not a lot of meat, very little, if anything, that's processed. Is that the answer to why they are amazing? Well, sure, that's part of it. Eating the way they eat contributes something to their success. Researchers have also pointed to the poverty that characterizes the lives of so many Kenyans. They say that economic opportunities motivate Kenyan runners. They run to escape to something better. The burning desire for a paycheck makes them great. Well, sure, that too is a part of it. That contributes something to their success. And yet another theory focuses on their ambulatory culture. Kenyans, especially rural Kenyans, walk or run to get everywhere: to school, to the market, to a friend's home. Often there is no car. You're late for school, and their penalty is way more severe than an MR. You run to get there, and then back to school, and then you run home for lunch, and at the end of the day, home again. So that's part of it. You see, I think, probably where I'm going with this. This group of people has achieved greatness on an unprecedented level for decades, and we cannot dispute that. And each of us sits here in this chapel, I hope, with our own dreams and desires to achieve greatness and success in some way, following our own path. It's really tempting to think there might be something almost magic about success or excellence. But even at that very moment, we allow ourselves to believe, even for a split second, that there is one answer, one golden ticket. We know we're wrong. There is no one reason that a group of people or a single person achieves excellence. We know that. One explanation, one factor would be way too easy. So what can we learn from the Kenyans? Well, how about we take a look at some Baylor examples? Why is Kristen Vriedeveld destined for the Olympics? Why is Zach Watson headed for the NCAA finals? Why is Bill McMahon one of the very best coaches and teachers and mentors that Baylor School has ever seen? Can we point to one reason? Where he went to college, where he went to high school, how long he's been on the faculty here, where he grew up, what he eats for breakfast? No, there's not one reason. What makes Jolie Anderson not just a master organizer, but also one of the most generous and kind persons that any one of us here has ever known? Was Amethyst Evans born with a set of genes that pretty much guaranteed her a ride to the top of her class? Did Scott Wilson land on the campus of Baylor School 40 years ago, destined to become the country's best headmaster one day? And what makes Marshall Farrell Marshall Farrell? These people epitomize excellence, don't they? Similarly, the Kenyan runners I met and watched and drank tea with and ran with, these individuals also epitomize excellence. Marathoner Sharon Charap was third this summer in the World Championships. David Rudisha currently holds the world record in the 800 meters, and he is like a rock star in his native country. I watched the national championships in Nairobi Stadium, sitting beside the Dubai Marathon winner, David Barmasai. Years of hard work and relentless sacrifice preceded their accomplishments, propelled them to excellence. So what I want to leave us with today is this thought. I learned many, many things while in Africa. I saw a lot. I had all sorts of really cool experiences, but mostly I just soaked it all up. And when the time came for me to try to distill the experience into something manageable and useful that I could share with you all, I kept returning to excellence. And here is what I see more clearly right now than ever before. Excellence is not magic. No singular gene exists in Jolie and in Marshall that makes them incredible. God did not just decide that Zach and Kristen would dominate their peers like no one before them. No one waved a wand of amazingness over Coach McMahon and Amethyst. We all know these things, but we too often act like we do not. Myriad factors have created and are today creating the excellence that we so admire in our community. Most of what comes together to manifest something really impressive is a mosaic of qualities and habits and actions, a mosaic that each one of us possesses. Too often, though, we shrug our shoulders and we say, I'm not good at math. I've never been any good at writing. Technology is not my thing. Well, when we behave like that, whether we're adults or students, we're not only wrong, but we're denying ourselves a really good shot at excellence. Excellence comes from habits and attitudes and states of mind. Excellence comes from insisting that we be ferociously disciplined about getting better. And to get better at anything, to move closer to excellence, we have to do the thing over and over and over. It means, you juniors, that you sit down and you take the time to read through every word and every sentence and every paragraph of All the King's men. Yes. Even when, and especially because it is hard. You finish that book, having read that book, and you are a better reader. You have moved closer to excellence. The motto at the 10 Boulder training camp, where I spent a really nice afternoon eating mango and papaya and drinking tea, is, believe me, nothing comes easy. That no-fuss attitude reminds me, and I hope reminds us all, that hard is good. Hard makes us better. Doing something hard over and over and over again turns into a mastery that then seems natural, a mastery that moves us to excellence. Asante is Swahili for thank you. I appreciate and thank you all for your attention this morning. Asante.